You hear that? That's the sound of someone deleting your carefully crafted thought leadership newsletter. Nearly 350 billion emails are sent every day. And the average click through rate, do you want to take a guess? It's about 2%. So your brilliant insights are swimming in a swamp of Old Navy BOGO promotions, terrifyingly vague HR meeting invites, if you know, and emails with subject lines that are a chaotic soup of abbreviations and jargon. So to riff on the old infomercial trope, there has to be a better way for us to get our message across. There is, and you're listening to it right now. Hi, I'm Courtney Reimer. Welcome to Talking the Talk, a podcast about podcasting, where I and my many colleagues across the podosphere share hard-won wisdom about how to make a podcast that stands out without burning you out. So listen, I am not here to all over your email marketing strategy. If you have one that makes you happy and feels rewarding to you, I truly am not. But my guess is you're here because you're wondering if maybe a podcast is something worth adding to your content mix, or maybe your newsletter hasn't been as rewarding as it once was, or maybe you're wondering whether I'm crazy enough to diss the most widely espoused content marketing channel for business owners. Believe me, I have been advised against doing that. I've been advised against doing what I'm doing right now. But I've also heard from countless founders and entrepreneurs that their other visibility channels and content strategies are giving them the ick. If that sounds like you, I'm here to tell you that yes, there is a better way. There is at least another way for you to get in front of your ideal audience, especially if the idea of creating an email strategy or learning the latest TikTok choreography lights you up as much as the thought of a trip to the dentist. The fact is, if you're someone with something to tell or sell the world, people will look at you like you have four heads if you tell them you don't now and never have had an email list that you routinely send delicious word salads to. And I know there are a lot of people who reap a lot of rewards from their emails. I do. And I know people who post to Reels and TikTok in ways that clearly bring them joy. You can't fake that kind of joy. Anyway, maybe they're right. Maybe you need an email list. Maybe I need an email list. And by the time you're listening to this, maybe I will start cultivating one. But also, maybe you don't have to let it take over your entire nervous system, especially if it feels like a pair of jeans on Thanksgiving. And if you want to take another path entirely, that's also a completely viable option. So, why do I have it out for email? Well, for one, I've always rebelled against the conventional wisdom and trends. I was a freak and a geek in high school, and I loved to challenge my teachers and professors on practically everything. I've done pretty well for myself despite that, and I will not bore you with my resume or achievements, but also as a small business solopreneur, I'm constantly being beat over the head about the importance of a well-tended email list garden. Like, it's a truth universally acknowledged that a solopreneur in possession of a service must be in want of a newsletter. We founders are told time and time again that if we don't have a way to reach our ideal clients via email, we're cooked. And yet, I persist. I felt just how non-negotiable having an email newsletter was, and it's actually what led me to be here right now. It was staring at me in black and white after the most amazing conference I've ever been to. It's called The Gathering. It's hosted and organized by the amazing Amy Nelson and AARP. It was attended by the highest per capita population of inspiring, content-forward women entrepreneurs I've ever had the pleasure of being in the presence of. Anyway, among the many goodies we got to take home with us after the event was this list, this Google sheet that showed me in screaming technicolor what it meant to be a solopreneur with thought leadership to share with the world in the year, well, it was 2025, but now 2026, it's still true. There were columns for each attendee's email address, name, LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Facebook, website, newsletter, podcast. And there it was staring right back at me in bold black and white, something I could not ignore any longer. And it just so happens, at that very conference, I had given a talk/workshop about how to build a business without burnout by adding a podcast to your content mix. I kid you not. At the time, no, I did not have a podcast. I was the shoeless cobbler, and I thought it was so cute to say that at every talk I gave, every webinar, you name it. Or when people be like, "Oh, I've heard you have what are you doing now? You're doing a podcast, right?" I'm like, I'm helping other people do podcasts," which has been the case for a very long time with much success. However, after my talk, my beloved mentor, Maggie Murphy, pointed out that it was no longer cute or helpful for me to refer to myself as the shoeless cobbler, aka the podcast strategist who doesn't have a podcast of her own. I was so annoyed when Maggie said that, and then I was gobsmacked, as I so often am, by the truth of what she said. It really made no sense for me to keep talking the talk without walking the walk. I knew I had to do both because, well, I sure as heck was not going to become another email statistic. What do I mean by email statistic? Well, as I said at the start of this, there are nearly 350 billion emails sent every day. The average office worker receives 100 to 120 or more emails per day. And many people who work in business of any kind have said they have at least 3-figure unread counts waiting for them in their inbox at any given time. Now, as a side dish to that, when we look at the podcast numbers, there are approximately 500,000 active podcasts out there, which is a big number, but there is a big difference between 350 billion and 500,000. So not only is there less competition and noise, certain podcasters notwithstanding, in the podcast marketplace, there's excitement and growth and newness in the audience. There are 500 million people globally regularly listening to podcasts, and it is rapidly getting bigger. It's projected to be 600 million sometime in 2026, maybe even as you're listening to this. And it is exponentially growing year over year. Just right before the pandemic, it was at 200 million. So we're in this real growth mode. It is starting to even out a little bit, but we're still in this phase, and maybe we always will be. I still think of podcasting as such fertile, creative territory, but we are in this nascent era, sort of like blogging before everyone went cuckoo for clickbait, but we haven't gone fully mainstream yet. Until my mother-in-law is a regular listener to podcasts, I'm going to refer to podcasting as emerging media, which means we're still in a period where there's not a ton of orthodoxy and rules about what we should do and what we have to do and what we can't do and what it is. There are a lot of assumptions, sure. A lot of people come to me assuming that the only format of a podcast is a conversation between two people that's pretty freeform and amorphous and generally about a particular topic. But we are really in a time of invention and evolution, and it's something that you can grow or shrink to fit based on your needs for storytelling. And in that storytelling, develop a real bona fide relationship with our audience via the flaws in our voices and the ways we pronounce things and our verbal tics, and there's no spell check happening on what I'm conveying right now. And not to be all now more than ever about it, but who among us isn't looking for the telltale AI M- bonanza or the sentence cadences that are a dead giveaway that ChatGPT was involved in the creation of that email? The mere fact that I've probably mispronounced at least one word here makes you more likely to trust me, to develop a parasocial relationship with me in which you come to rely on me for wisdom or laughter or at least solidarity in whatever mistakes I end up making here. And by me, I mean the avatar of a podcast host who is compelling because of, not despite her many flaws. So what I'm saying is, if you have flaws, if you want to color outside the lines and you have something to say and you've felt a little confined and constricted by the other forums in which you're supposed to be doing your storytelling as a thought leader or creative entrepreneurial type, keep listening. No pun intended. I have another angle for you here too. To invoke the chart-topping elephant in the room, it bears noting a newsletter did not have an outsized influence on our last presidential election. But I think you know a podcast that did. And whenever I'm at an event attended by adults, be it like school concert, friend's birthday party, you name it, inevitably someone mentions a thing they heard on a podcast. And honestly, this is even without knowing what it is I do for a living. And I can't for the life of me remember anyone ever saying, I read this cool thing in this newsletter the other day. Listen, I truly am not here to poop all over your newsletter strategy. I am going to eat this crow, I'm sure, very soon because there's something to be said for it. And there's a great flywheel from a podcast to a newsletter. That is an episode for another time. I'm just saying, if you need that nudge that you came here for, I'm happy to provide. You will have a message that lands and literally your people opt into instead of having some box automatically checked and flooding inboxes like the Old Navy BOGO onslaught. You've seen the meme. I hope this email finds you well. And then it's like how this email found me, and it's a picture of Chewbacca in the trash compactor. I digress. Listen, I use email every day. Some of my best friends give good email. I just want you to know that there is another way. And if I'm doing it and I have dinner to be made downstairs right now, a mess surrounding me, client emails waiting for responses, you get the point. If I can do it, so can you. Honestly, yes, I've done it with other people, but being able to find the time to have this joyous, self-deprecating, somewhat meandering statement and discussion with you is something that you can do too. I hope my sort of letting it all hang out gives you permission to do that and see that, oh wow, there's room to breathe in that podcast format. So yes, podcasting though, it isn't easy. Okay. It takes a lot of planning and effort and conscious work to get comfortable with the sound of your own voice and increasingly your facial expressions. And yes, that's for another episode as well. But if you're feeling like you want to get your message out there and you're underwhelmed, to say the least, by your other options, just know you can give it a try. Millions of people try all the time and they don't stick with it because it didn't bring them joy, but why not try? What you could do here is something that also can fit into the lives of your audience when they're not trying to achieve inbox zero. They're walking their dog or walking themselves or doing their dishes, folding their laundry, and there you are in their ear, making them smarter, making them laugh, making them less bored, making them feel solidarity because you remind them of themselves or someone they know, and you've distracted them from something else. They've chosen that. They hit play on you. You didn't just plop into their inbox. Try this little somatic experiment. Next time you're in your email, which is probably far too often, and you receive a newsletter, pause. See how you feel looking at that subject line in your inbox, or in all likelihood, all of those subject lines staring back at you. Is your heart racing? Do you have an itchy delete button finger? Are you just, Now, open your podcast app of choice. Is there a new episode greeting you there? What feeling does that evoke for you? Is it dread or overwhelm? Oh, is that delight? Is that joy? Is that anticipation? If that's how you're feeling, you just might be an exact replica of the person you're trying to reach, and they're ready to hear from you. All you need to do is take a chance on this new thing. It's actually a lot of fun. If you're thinking about doing something like what I'm doing right now, please email me, which I know is completely ironic for me to say given the central punching bag of this whole thing. But I'm Courtney at soundsgreatstrategy.com. And I'm not saying this to try to sell you something, said every salesperson ever, but I want to talk you into it before you talk yourself out of it. I've had some success with this lately, where people are like, I don't know, I can't do it. And then something I said shifted their thinking. They'll be like, maybe I will try. You should email me the one thing holding you back from trying a podcast of your own. It might be a valid point. I might be like, maybe now's not the time, but call me when you're ready. But chances are I can help you find the path around that obstacle that's stopping you. If you're at all scared of this idea of launching your own podcast, so was I. But someone very smart made a very compelling case for doing it, and they were right. This is the right way for me to be reaching you, a podcast listener who is maybe curious about starting a podcast of their own. What better way for you to hear about it than from my own voice? If you found something of interest or contention or confusion in this episode, drop me an email at courtney@soundsgreatstrategy.com. I'd love to hear how this landed for you. Until next time, this is Talking the Talk, a podcast about podcasting with me, Courtney Reimer. Thank you for listening, and stay podcast curious.